There has to be a space for every woman who wants to go into finance to be in any corner of finance. Unless we can be in every corner of finance, we're not really in any corner of finance. I have found very few people who today would not say that they think there are some institutional barriers to women. It's just a little bit harder to get ahead, maybe a little bit or maybe a lot, but it is definitely not as easy for women as it is for men in the workplace. So in all aspects of business, I think being a woman is a little bit more difficult. Therefore, the women who do make it to the highest executive ranks should be better than the average person. But the average person is male. So if you take the female CEO is almost by definition going to be better than the average CEO. Ever since I thought of this 15 years ago, I've been trying to isolate that factor. And so we were trying to convince people of this on the private equity side, on the CEO side, on the board side. There was plenty of research. We were saying there was causality. Some people were not saying there was causality, but it was difficult to isolate that performance in something like an actual private equity transaction because it's both the investor and the CEO and their teams, respective teams, that create the value. On hedge funds, there's a different story because there's one decision maker who has final responsibility for pulling the trigger. So when we started looking at hedge funds where you had this ability to isolate decision making, that's when we felt we could isolate the female factor. Most large investors have a combination of using a consultant who is recommending the best hedge funds and hedge fund analytics team where they believe they're selecting the best hedge funds. And we are of the belief that that selection process basically makes it statistically impossible for women to get selected, which is why they have less than 1.5% of all hedge fund AUM. Our belief is that unless the institutional community starts realizing that if they don't move away from that selection model, they will never get balanced exposure from a gender perspective, or even to 10% women AUM in their portfolio, because it's such a combination of right person, right time, right connection. It's statistically impossible for it to happen. There has to be a space for every woman who wants to go into finance to be in any corner of finance. Unless we can be in every corner of finance, we're not really in any corner of finance. And the question is, why aren't more women interested in this career, which frankly is very dynamic? You're around smart people all the time, especially in asset management. You really get to manage your schedule a lot more than in some other service industries. This is a conversation women in asset management, women in finance have all the time. How do we get younger women to know how much fun this career can be? It's fun, it's challenging, and it's well paid.